Good evening. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold story. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Freedom of expression or speech is seemingly one of the greatest crimes in La Republic. Well, tonight you'll see who, unfortunately, has lost their lives, most probably for speaking the truth about La Republic to Cameroon's corruption, a country where you're not allowed to say the truth as it is. What can you believe from its surviving media? Meanwhile, Northwest and Southwest regions has slowly but steadily become a reoccurring description of the two Cameroons. Last week, amongst a couple of Ambazonian reactions to recent happenings, an Ambazonian brought cognizance to and corrected the fact that it is British Southern Cameroons, not Southwest region. But all of a sudden, the distinction between the two Cameroons has gone all the way from the British Southern Cameroons to just Northwest and Southwest regions, further blurring the fact that both Cameroons were initially two separate entities. Well, tonight, we will be having an exclusive session with the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia of the interim government led under His Excellency Samuel Ikome Sako to help us analyze the intricacies of the Canadian-backed talks put in gear, but not before the prime headlines.
All right, let's have the prime headlines for today. We'll start with the purported Canada peace progress. And also today, abduction and brutal murder of La Republic to Cameroon journalist Martinez Zogo. And also a mediation that appeals to the consciousness of Ambazonia is a story that would definitely interest you today. Also today, we're going to be looking at the revelations on Biden's classified documents. And also a summary of the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. All right, let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Amazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Amazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Amazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Amazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Amazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing into the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Amazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Amazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
We here on Undaunted brought to you on Thursday the kidnap of the station manager of Radio Amplitude FM based in the colonial capital Yaoundé by unidentified men on his way home from office who took him to an unknown destination. But recent information reaching Undaunted shows that he is dead. Now, fellow Ambazonians, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Onyi Obalan. Smart is here as always. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Onyi. Diving deeper into this recent and disheartening update on Martinez Zogo, investigations to shed light on his murder have begun, with some findings already indicating the amount of torture he went through before dying. And since results of investigations in La République du Cameroun are usually tailored or never published, all accusing fingers point at La République du Cameroun's notorious and arrogant fraudulent billionaire Jean-Pierre Amugo Belinga, owner of Vision 4 TV.
Now, an autopsy is reported to have been carried out on his remains. Paul Dizzy Beer, a journalist, reveals that the autopsy showed that some body parts were missing and others dislocated. The autopsy shows that he had a broken foot, some fingers missing, he was electrocuted, he was made to eat his feces, the tongue was not at its normal position. This is what Paul Dizzy disclosed.
Now, reports have it that Martinez Zogo's lifeless body was found in a locality called Ebogo 3 around Soa in the outskirts of Yaoundé. From the photo, one can see that he was stripped naked and abandoned on an stretch of land. The Amplitude FM station's manager's remains were discovered by inhabitants of the area on Saturday, January 21st, 2023. One of the inhabitants said, "We saw a corpse lying here. We didn't know who it was. We didn't know that it was Martinez. We're asking ourselves who can do this act to come and abandon a human being like this, because the body was already in a state of decomposition."
Well, he further explained that when they arrived there, it was only the legs that one could recognize. The dresses that the man was wearing were taken to the brigade. It was there that they said his wife came and recognized the clothes. And now Martinez Zogo, presenter of the popular radio program Brutillage on Amplitude FM in Yaoundé, was announced missing on January 17th, 2023. Now, the reason behind his abduction and murder is not known. Notwithstanding, he was critical of state officials and embezzlers of public funds in La Republic du Cameroon. Many believe his condemnation of ills within the corrupt La Republic du Cameroon government circles made him a target. And it is not surprising, as before him it was Wazizi, Prophet Siki Awono, Stanley's Desire Tocho, Francois Ganon Denwo, and today, unfortunately, it is Martinez Zogo.
Undaunted has noted and can say without fear or favor that any another weapon in the hands of tyrannical governments like that of La Republic du Cameroon is muzzling journalists. The press must mobilize more than ever. Journalist Parfait Siki, taken a few months back, is still under custody. As you know, many especially English-speaking journalists are missing and some under detention without trial, while some on the run following the onslaught of the Amazonian War of Independence that has been raging on now for 7 years and that has claimed over 40,000 lives, raised over 500 homes and villages, and forced millions into exile.
Martinez Zogo, because of his incisive and critical radio show program, Amplitude has been a thorn in the flesh of the corrupt dictatorial Yaoundé junta. Now, in January 2020, he was locked up in the famous Kandengi prison before being released. He's most often than not at loggerhead with the Yaoundé government, especially ministers, including the director of the civil cabinet at the presidency of La Republique du Cameroon, Mvondo Ayolo, who, according to journalist testimonies, arbitrarily sent him back to Kandengi prison in April 2022. Now, the last straw that broke the camel's back was his denunciation of one Amungo Belingwa, a colonial La Republic du Cameroon fraud crime syndicate protege, a product of the bad system through fraudulent contracts notorious for his arrogance.
Martinez in his talk show questioned aloud why an individual like Belinga can be in possession of over 8 billion francs CFA, 8.6 billion francs CFA, keeping such a colossal sum even more than the country's budget twice, and he is not being prosecuted before the corrupt, bloodthirsty crime syndicate called government in Yaoundé concludes investigations on this brutal death, all accusing fingers already pointing at Jean-Pierre Amugo Belinga. The Yaoundé crime syndicate does not seem obliged to publish their findings, as it has been the case when they killed Samuel Wazizi in detention till date. A curious report was once given by Issa Chiroma, then the colonial minister of communications, who declared that journalist Bibi Ngota, who died of torture in detention, died of AIDS.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
All right. It is obvious that zeal dies with time, and it is only normal for that fire to be rekindled for the love of others, not to wax cold. The Amazonian fight for liberation has been in arms since 2017, and for 5 years and counting, the love of many needs to be rekindled. Here we'll read through a meditation that serves that purpose by Reverend Babili Fongchang.
All right, now he goes by stating that if you read in the Bible from Exodus chapter 3, 1 to 12, it says, "Go and tell Pharaoh, let my people go." Now he goes on to say that God is always on the side of the oppressed. The call of Moses was a call for liberation. And he says, "Let my people go." God's liberation battle cry. Oppressors may have their day and enjoy it as long as it lasts. But one day God calls Moses in the burning bush, saying, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt." It says, "I have heard them crying out, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hands of Egyptians and to bring them up out. Now I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. I'm sure that you can connect the dotted lines here.
All right, now he says, sadly, though, oppressed people do not suddenly all jubilate because somebody comes and claims to be their liberator. Moses raised some genuine concerns, like the Israelites could ask him who sent him. And what if they did not believe him or care to listen to him? My people say, if you want to shave a monkey's head, you must first tie its hands. You want to make the monkey look good, but if you do not tie its hand, it will scratch you. Freedom fighters know this very well. God had assured that the promised land was a land flowing with milk and honey, but when hunger and thirst hit hard on the Israelites in the desert, many of them longed for the flesh pot of Egypt.
Now, the liberator has enemies in both camps. On the one hand, there is resistance from the oppressor, who is not ready to liberate the oppressed. And on the other hand, there is resistance from the oppressed, who have built their comfort zone within the confines of their oppression. Such oppressed are seemingly satisfied with the status quo. Freedom does not come for free. Now, let my people go comes with a heavy price both ways. Knowing the challenges that await a divine liberator, we may understand why there is such reluctance to jump at the first invite from God to go and set his people free. However, a divine liberator has no reason to fear the threat arising from the assignment. God does not send us alone. He does not send us where he will not be. He told Moses, I will be with you. Not only that, earlier on, he told Moses, so I have come down to rescue them. What this means is that when God sends us, he himself is the one doing it through us.
Now, the last words of the risen Lord Jesus Christ, the apostles, before his ascension was, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. That is in Matthew 28, verse 20b. He says, dear friends, do not give excuses when God assigns you. Do not be afraid. Wherever God sends you, he assures, I will be there with you. Prayer of the week, Lord, I will go wherever you want me to go because you are there with me. Amen. Welcome back to a new working day and week. Have a blessed day and week. Peace be with you. And now this is from Reverend Babila Fonchang, an amazing one, an amazing way for Amazonians to rekindle their fire and know that we are in such a time as this. Well, we'll move on with the report of today.
All right, we've been giving you a report from Biden. Revelations grow on Joe Biden's handling of classified documents. Now, here is what we know so far. Now, the revelation that the FBI found additional classified documents during a Friday search of the president's personal residence in Delaware is stalking new scrutiny of Joe Biden's handling of sensitive and, in some cases, classified information.
Now, attorneys for Biden stressed in statements on Saturday evening that the president is cooperating with the Department of Justice and Special Counsel investigation and said the search of his Wilmington, Delaware residence was voluntary. The FBI called it planned and consensual in a statement. But the search, which the president's legal team waited to disclose until a full day later, is generating new questions about White House transparency on the issue that Biden last week suggested is insignificant.
Now, what do we know about Joe Biden's classified documents? More than a dozen classified documents have been discovered in Biden's personal offices. An initial batch of documents was discovered at the Biden's Penn Center last year, just prior to the midterm elections. Their existence was not made public by the White House. CBS reported on the documents in January, prompting a congressional inquiry. However, attorneys for Biden found 6 pages of classified material at his Wilmington residence, and at least 6 more documents were uncovered during a secondary search of Biden's home that was conducted on Friday by the DOJ.
Now, Biden's attorney, Bob Barr, says some handwritten notes from his vice presidential years were also taken into possession. But what are people saying? Every day it seems like they're finding more documents. This is from Michael McCall, our Texas, on CNN's State of the Union. And this one also is from the FBI. This one also is from somebody else who says, although it was consensual, the search, FBI conducted the search, not his attorneys. This really ratchets the investigation up.
All right. So according to Senator Joe Martinez, says, I think he should have a lot of regrets. All right. And also according to Senator Chris Coons, he says there is one important document that distinguishes former President Trump from President Biden. He says that's a warrant, right? And says that's this week, pointing out that the search in Biden's home was a voluntary.
All right, now more on the foreign scene. We've been bringing to you the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is mostly known for its annual meeting at the end of January in Davos, a mountain resort in the Eastern Alps region of Switzerland. And we've been bringing you updates as regards this meeting, which started on the 16th and finally came to an end on Friday, 20th January 2023, a conference whose processes and outcomes remain pretty much business as usual.
Now, on the economic front, many seem to believe the worst was behind them, with the global economic outlook for the year ahead looking better than feared.
Well, on climate, there was such much talk about, but little action. Anyways, engulfed with cash after a year of high oil prices, fossil fuel producers have the firepower to invest in green energy, but efforts on CEO green pledges and climate financing appeared sluggish. Political leaders like Keir Starmer railed against new oil investments, and Pakistani Climate Minister Sherry Rehman pushed for loss and damage funding.
Now, Russia's oligarchs, usually prominent in the annual summit, were absent this year, even as Ukraine made a strong pitch for more aid, both military and financial. For Ukraine allies, Davos was all about doubling down on better weapons and financial support for Kharkiv to defend itself against Russia. Outside the West, though, fears of an economic turndown highlighted global divisions as some delegates encouraged a quick return to the negotiating table.
Now on trade, WTO's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala warned that be careful of friendshoring as the big three trading power of the United States, Europe, and China push their new industrial policies. What was not clear was how the rest of the world fits into new trade policies and protect workers and redefine supply chains. Well, Raghuram Rajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, complained of the fact that subsidy doesn't quite work well with every nation as poor countries who have limited fiscal room get left out in the cold. While most business leaders were upbeat about the economy, with the US and the European Union seemingly beyond the risk of a recession now, China ending its zero COVID curbs and opening shops again added to the positive outlook.
Now, let's look at China and inflation. China declared itself open for business in a speech by Vice Premier Liu He that was broadly welcomed, but also raised inflationary fears and left people waiting to see what the word meant for existing tensions with the United States. Indeed, Chinese Vice Premier Liu, he made a strong pitch about his country's opening up, saying a noticeable increase of imports, more investments by companies, and consumption returning back to normal can be expected in 2023. In Liu's address on January 17th, he said, if we work hard enough, we are confident that in 2023, China's growth will most likely return to its normal trend. Many also pointed out that China's opening up could mean a rise in its energy consumption, thereby driving up energy prices.
All right, now the World Economic Forum's annual meeting was filled with discussions of plenty of risk, including inflationary pressures from China's reopening and rising debt, the stress in the developing world, not to mention that the hardest bit for Western nations is yet to come, getting inflations down to 2%. However, central banks of the major economies cautioned that concerns still remained and said they would keep interest rates high to ensure inflation is under check. Now on tech, the interesting part we brought to you, just as Microsoft's Corp CEO and other Silicon Valley executives touted artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, to transform their businesses, they announced layoffs of tens of thousands of employees globally. Scrutiny of once high-flying cloud spending by business was at the forefront. Now, Alex Karp, CEO of Plantier Technology, suggested businesses are under enormous cost pressure and so need to find ways to do the same things cheaper.
And rounding it all up, let's look at financial services. Global financial institutions are grappling with how to right size for a slowdown, while dealing with a host of other headwinds. With the threat of inflation still hanging over central banks, financiers are facing demands from regulators for high capital levels to prepare for a downturn, making some business unprofitable. Pressure is also increasing on them to finance the global transition to a greener future much faster than they have been doing so far. Other exogenous events such as geopolitics and cybersecurity risks are further complicating matters, while consensus is elusive.
All right, now onto a very critical story, which we have been anticipating from the start of news today. This is in regards to the war going on in Amazonia. Here is a statement on peace process in Cameroon from Global Affairs Canada on January 20th, 2023, Ottawa, Ontario, Global Affairs Canada. All right, it reads, the Honorable Melanie Joly, Minister of Foreign Affairs, today issued the following statements on the announcement of a peace process aimed at resolving the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Okay, a quick pause, a quick digression. Northwest Southwest regions has become a recurring description of the two Cameroons. Remember, in some reactions from Ambazonians we looked at last week, a particular Ambazonian corrected this fact here that it is British Southern Cameroons, and all of a sudden the distinction between these two Cameroons have gone all the way from British Southern Cameroons to just Southwest regions and the Northwest regions, further blurring the fact that both Cameroons were initially two separate entities. Well, let's move on.
Well, all right. The statement on peace progress and process is Cameroon. It goes on to say civilians are bearing the brunt of the ongoing crisis in Cameroon, with more than 6,000 people having lost their lives since 2017. In addition, nearly 800,000 people have been displaced as a result of this crisis, and 600,000 children do not have access to education. All right. Now, who also noticed that the series of incorrect figures here, they're talking about 6,000 lives lost since 2017, when we know that it is over 40,000 lives lost since then. And to think that this backdoor talk is supposed to, go on with people who don't even have the facts and figures correct is amazing.
Just amazing. Well, moving on with this Canada statement, it says Canada welcomes the agreement by the parties to enter a process to reach a comprehensive, peaceful, and political resolution of the conflict. The parties have also agreed to form technical committees to begin work on confidence building measures. The agreement to enter a formal process is a critical first step towards peace and a safer, more inclusive and prosperous future for civilians affected by the conflict. We commend all parties for engaging in substantive dialogue. We encourage all stakeholders to support and work with the parties to advance and contribute to an inclusive process to reach a lasting and sustainable political settlement. What happened to the genuine Swiss-led mediation? Well, the entire statement has a lot to debunk, but we'll leave that for the Vice President, Mr. Eric Atay, who will be having in a bit to do justice to this.
All right, but before that, let's just continue a bit. The concluding part of the statement says Canada has accepted the mandate to facilitate this process as part of our commitment to promote peace and security and advance support for democracy and human rights. Our role also affects Canada's engagement to work with our African partners to build a better future for everyone. Now, the parties to this agreement are the Republic of Cameroon, the Ambazonia Governing Council, and the Ambazonia Defense Force, the African People's Liberation Movement, and the Southern Cameroon's Defense Force, the interim government, and the Ambazonia Coalition Team. The parties further expressed the hope that other groups will join the process.
All right. There you have the Canada statement on peace process in the Cameroons. Well, now, what does, as concerns this talk, the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomi Sako, has made it abundantly clear time and time again to the international community and to bona fide Ambazonians that the interim government, which he leads, cannot be part of any talks aimed at ending the genocidal war on Amazonia when a mediator has not been agreed upon by the belligerent parties.
Now, this particular statement was contained in a press release signed on the 6th day of October 2022 by Dr. Samuel Ikomesako and reiterated in another press release issued on the 11th day of October 2022 by the Interim Government Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Mungwa. Now, in these communiques, it is stated that because of La Republic de Cameroon's outright rejection of the Swiss-led process, Switzerland pulled out as mediator of any possible talks between Ambazonia and La Republic de Cameroon.
This releases further buttresses the point that in a conflict with international dimensions like the one in question, it is appropriate for the mediator to be mandated by both sides of the conflict. The Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by the interim government on the one hand, and La Republic, led by its colonial government on the other hand, the communiques express doubt on the role of the Canadian government in such cases.
Now, let's look at Deacon Paul Tassang's view. He says Canadian government's foreign office, in which the Honorable Jolie Minister announced that Canada has accepted to facilitate a peace process aimed at resolving the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Whereas this is good news. After the collapse of the Swiss-led process, the Canadian offer rather leaves a sour diplomatic taste in its wake. Now, let's remember that in Diplomacy Masterclass Made Simple 1, remember we did that to you through an editorial series. Now, he did explain that the most urgent and important thing in conflict management is getting the belligerents to agree to a mediated conflict resolution process, and particularly getting the powerful aggressor and the parties to agree to negotiate.
Well, first of all, it is important that we lay to rest misgivings surrounding the use of some terms and designations. Peace process. Well, Wikipedia defines peace process as the set of social-political negotiations, agreements, and actions that aim to solve a specific armed conflict. Peace is a sublime endpoint of every credible conflict resolution process that addresses root causes and establishes justice after the truths in the matter have been fully established and considered. For this sublime endpoint to be achieved, the facilitator must make sure that all parties and factions of parties come to the table, and more importantly, that the principal faction is part of the process. Failing this, its effort will be in futility.
All right, so the designation of the territory of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia as the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon may seem obnoxiously annoying to Ambazonians, but that is what it will be until statehood recognition and independence restoration are achieved. Now, from the Department of Communication and IT, we have this letter signed by Dr. Martin Mungwa. Now, according to Dr. Mungwa, who reiterated our position that mediators in any peace process can neither be self-imposed nor self-appointed. Now, they must be elected by the belligerent parties involved in the conflict as of today. No broad-based consultation or what the engagement was involved in. Now, the constitution of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, which represents our liberation critical mass and the aspiration of the overwhelming majority of Ambazonian adult home front and in diaspora Canada as one of the observers and sponsors of the Swiss-led process, knows the character of this conflict and the principal parties on both sides after more than 5 years of the conflict.
Now, therefore, to initiate a peace process without due consultation worthy the engagement with one of the principles of this conflict is a recipe for failure. This is because it contradicts the fundamental of conflict resolution. It is a waste of time, financial, and human resources aimed at executing the multi-billion plan of the enemy, La Republic du Cameroon, which seeks to distract ourselves, defendants in Ambazonia, and continuous acts of genocide, destruction of human settlement, and private property. Some of those are Davidian groups listed as parties claiming to represent the Ambazonia side in the minister's statement are little known individuals with very negligible following and limited involvement in the Amazonian cause, most of whom do not represent the aspirations of the overwhelming majority of Ambazonia.
Now, the formation of Ambazonian Coalition Team, that's Team ACT, which was meant to serve as an umbrella organization as one of their parties is a misnomer because the principal and initiator of ACT, which is the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, is not party to the initial process and did not endorse those claiming to be representing her in the Canadian schedule for any group of persons purported to represent the interim government in meetings with Canada are proud to state that by the Canadian Foreign Minister are imposters and must not be taken seriously. Now, this is what Dr. Martin Mungwa says. All right, so this is a very sensitive topic, and we cannot do justice to this particular topic if we do not have the response of someone from the interim government, and we have the right person for the job here this evening. We have the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Mr. Eric Ati, here to give the interim government's position and, of course, his own position and ideas concerning the purported Canada peace process. All right, and he's been here with us right from the onset of this news, and we must appreciate his patience so far. Good evening, Mr. Eric Ati. All right, like we said, this is a very sensitive.
Okay. Can you hear me? I can't hear anything. Technicians.
All right, all right, we're trying to connect, get a visible audio to connect to the Vice President's office. And we'll definitely have that connection and bring this back to you, Mr. Vice President. But let's just go on a break, and when we return, I'm sure that would have fixed it, and then would have the interim government's position, and of course ask a few questions, and then get back to you. So let's take a brief break.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, you're welcome back. I'm sure that right about now would have established a perfect audio with the Vice President's office. Mr. Vice President, if you can hear us now, please, can we get an affirmation from you that you can hear us now, please?
Listen, I can hear them, but they can't hear me, and I'm not on screen.
Okay, Mr. Vice President, we can hear you right now.
Yes, I think they are working on my image, so I don't know what's going on in the background. Thank you for having me today. I will just proceed and can you people hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, we can hear you very loud and clear. We only need to just see your image
Yes,
back on our screen, and then.
yeah, that's fine. Can you hear me? Can you still hear me?
So, Mr. Vice President, we really appreciate your patience throughout
Yeah,
today's
it's
news
okay.
and all of the delays and breakages and all of that. But we have you now, and we are excited to see you. We can say Happy New Year to you, sir.
Thank you. Happy New Year, ladies. Happy New Year to every Amazonian watching us. I know everyone is agitating about a lot of things that are going on in Canada. So I just came here to maybe soothe some, just tell people to relax a little bit and that everything will be fine. My fellow Amazonians, we woke up to the news the other day that Canada has promoted itself to a mediator position. It is very sad to note that a country who basically was the main sponsor of the Swiss-led process, a country whose ambassador in Cameroon called my president, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, a few months back, asking him to join a meeting that they were convening at the behest of the Cameroonian government in Canada, to which the president replied that if the government of Cameroon is not there, then there is no reason why this interim government should be there. So we resisted going there because the president felt like it was going to be a sham. And that happened 3 weeks after they had pulled out from a legitimate process that was internationally recognized and endorsed by the United States, the European Union, Canada itself, African Union, and the United Nations, and many other countries in the world. So the question was, why would Cameroon abandon something that was so largely endorsed by the international community and engage 3 weeks later into something that they convened through the Canadian government? And those are the questions that the president asked the ambassador. And those were the motivational factors that the president took into consideration when he said he would not attend and this interim government would not send representatives to a sham. However, there we are. The president also asked two questions, very pertinent questions to the ambassador. Is Canada a mediator? And the ambassador said, no, they are not. And to that question, the president said, well, whenever, so then the president asked, is the Republic of Cameroon sending its officials to that meeting? The Canadian ambassador also responded with a no. So those are the two things that made the president stay out of the process. And the president said, whenever Cameroon is ready to come to the table, he will reconsider his position. So I want Ambazonians to know that the ball is not in the president's court, but in the person and the people who have elevated themselves to a mediator without talking to the president about it. You call the president and you tell the president to attend a meeting, and you tell the president that you are not a mediator, and you don't contact the president to say, you know what, I have decided that I am offering myself as a mediator. Do you agree? For him to make that decision. But they unilaterally promoted themselves to the position of a mediator. That's not how it works. As to the people who are in Canada right now, our thought process from the onset was that they are also our civil society. Why? Because La République de Cameroon, during the first meeting that was held, like the ambassador said, sent our own brothers who support them. So federalists, bunch of people who are members of their government, members of their parties, to come and talk to other people here. So we said, why would you be killing our people? And then you pick people you term as Anglophones to come and talk to us. That is not the way you do things. If La République du Cameroon was serious, they would have sent the people who are giving the orders for our people to be decimated and killed. But that's not what happened. So we took the position that every Ambazonian has the right to do whatever they want to do. But we as a government will not sit with those who are not responsible for what is happening to our people. So that's the position that we took. So I would like to maybe proceed to hand over the microphone to you so you might have some questions and we can proceed with the discussion. But that is just the position that we took before we heard the news from the Canadian Foreign Ministry that they have elevated themselves to mediators. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so. All right, thank you so much, Mr. VP. In the communique we read today, it was stated, it was a fact, I mean, because of La République du Cameroon's outright rejection of the Swiss-led process, Switzerland pulled out as a mediator of any possible talks between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. So the question is, what is Canada coming in as? Because it was clear, it made the headlines at the time that La République du Cameroon rejected the peace, the Swiss-led mediation, and Switzerland pulled out as a mediator. So that is at least clear, and whatever is happening in Canada doesn't quite seem to be like a mediation process. But now you said they have upgraded to mediators. How does that work exactly? With two parties not being represented fully, how does that work?
The belligerent parties are not there. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. The belligerent parties are not there. The Cameroon government, who is responsible for what is happening in the southern Cameroons, is not present. They are having a conversation with people with whom they have been having conversations for a very long time, plotting behind our backs to destroy the struggle. The APLM, led by Akwanga, AGOFC, everybody knows their history. The British Southern Cameroons Restoration Force is something like that, BSCF-RF, led by General Arke, the retired General in Boyo, and also Yerima, who represents a president who sits in jail and calls himself leader of an IG care. So look at all the people who are there. They are people who have been an impediment to our revolution. Look at their resume. La République du Cameroon chose them for a reason, because they are their friends. They are not there to negotiate for the freedom of the Ambazonian people. They are there to negotiate for their stomachs, like they have been doing for a very, very long time. I am not going to sit here and say, I'm going to levy accusations on, let's say, the AGF, because you have the AGF there and you have AGOFC there. I have always understood that AGOFC is the political wing of the AGF led by Ayabacho Lucas. The AGF is the military wing of the AGOFC led by a certain gentleman called Benjamin Koa. Ben Koa. So why are the two groups there? So you see, La République is just trying to portray a semblance. They're just trying to portray that Ambazonians are sitting on the table. No, these are people, these are extensions of La République citizens. These are people who have decided to stay with La République. These are federalists. These are, I would say retired revolutionaries. People who are in jail, but have put their own personal freedom above the freedom of an entire people. So that's the way we look at it. If the Republic of Cameroon is serious, they will not be looking for peace within Cameroon. Because you know what? Cameroon is fine. There is no war going on in Cameroon. There is a war of occupation going on in the southern Cameroons. Why would the ambassador choose those words? Peace in Cameroon, peace in the northwest and southwest region. No, there is nothing as the northwest and southwest region. The northwest and southwest region of Cameroon is actually the western province of Cameroon, or the western region, and Douala. These two regions that they are talking about is a free country. It is an independent nation that attained its independence on October 1st, 1961. Ladies, can you hear me? Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, we can hear you.
Yeah, so what I was about to say is there is nothing wrong with the Republic of Cameroon meeting its friends. They are friends. Canada is a friend to La République du Cameroon. AGF is a friend to La République du Cameroon. AGOF-C, the political wing of the AGF, is also a friend to La République du Cameroon. Sisiko Ayub Tabe, who sits in jail and calls himself president of IG Care, is also a friend to La République du Cameroon. Because if you are sitting in someone's jail and you are fighting for power, you are fighting to rule a country while you are sitting in the enemy's jail with listening devices all over your jail cell, well, you are their friend. They are one. So these are a bunch of Cameroonians who are sitting around talking to La République du Cameroon. Whenever La République du Cameroon decides to speak to Ambazonians, the southern Cameroonian people, then they will speak to the representative, the stakeholder of this revolution. And I want to also send a powerful message to our restoration forces on the ground. My message to them is that while these people are putting up this charade, truckloads of Cameroon soldiers are going into Bui and Gwakutunja to kill our restoration forces. Does that look like someone who wants peace in Amazonia? No, they are talking about peace in Cameroon, because what they are doing in Amazonia is affecting their economy. So they are using their friends to open the doors to come into our territory, kill our people, and extract our natural resources. Amazonia, I want you people to listen to me very carefully. All the people listed on that communique from these enablers are Cameroonians. They are there for one Cameroon. When Cameroon is ready, when the government of Cameroon, of the Republic of Cameroon, gets serious about negotiating the end of this war, then they will talk to the principal, which is the interim government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. Now, according to Dr. Moore, he stated here the general fundamental of conflict resolution, and although he said that process and the procedures that they are taking is actually a waste of time, but here he said initiate process without due consultation worthy of engagement with one of the principles of this conflict is a recipe for you. Now, this is exactly what you are also saying. But then, Mr. Vice President, looking at what is on the table, what they do differently that would, make the interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikamesa, of course, which you are in, what can they do differently? Bring up the negotiation table. Of course, the Swiss-led negotiation process was already called off by La République du Cameroun. So now that this is on the table, is there anything that can be of an advantage to us here in this, especially when we look at this particular statement by Dr. Mungwa?
Well, I just want to remind the Amazonian people that that statement is not by Dr. Mungwa. That statement is the official position of the interim government. And so I'm here to articulate whatever was said in that statement published by Dr. Mungwa, who is the Secretary of Communication and IT of this government. This is what I'm just giving a little bit of my own take, but also I'm also speaking as a vice president, right? So what I'm saying is that you do not promote yourself to a mediator. When the ambassador of Canada in Cameroon contacted us, the president asked him two questions, like I said before. If Canada decided to present itself as a mediator, what they should have done is talk to the Cameroonian government and talk to the government of Ambazonia. Let these two belligerent parties, the two warring parties, agree to make them mediators. We would have not read it from their website. So essentially what they are doing is that Cameroon picks who they want to talk to. And they are talking to people who don't have any bearing on home front. The fact is, somebody asked me the other day, what if something comes out of this? What if we get our independence out of this Canadian process? My response to that person was, I will be happy if La République pulls its troops out of my country. If the Canadian process works, that independence will be enjoyed by me and many other members of this government. In the same token, when we sat in Switzerland for 3 years in the Swiss-led process, Ayabacho refused to go. John Baakoro refused to go. So many of them who are now clamoring towards Canada refused to go. Okay, in the same token, if we had secured the independence of Ambazonia, wouldn't it have been for them too? They would have also benefited from that arrangement. So what is the problem with us not being there? The fact of the matter is we are not interested.
That's the question, Mr. Vice President. I want to come in here. Of course, La Republic de Cameroon knows the interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikomesako. They know the authority that these interim governments carry. So we keep wondering as well why they go to the back, why they go to those people who are not holding this resolution or this revolution by the hand. What do they intend to achieve when they know the authorities that they should come to? What do you think that they intend to achieve? Or do you think that there is even nothing that they intend to achieve, but they just want it to look like they are, doing something to probably make the international community believe that they are actually doing something, and then you are not responding? Because the truth is they are not coming to the right people and they are not saying the right things, but they are saying some things to the wrong people. I'm just wondering what they intend to achieve with these moves that is really not getting anybody anywhere.
Well, I wish I knew what was in their mind, but I can pretty much ascertain from their very, very, I would say dishonest behavior over the years. La République du Cameroon have always tried to impose leaders on us. That is what they are doing. They don't want to see our country go away. They don't want to see Southern Cameroon stand on its own. They want to continue exploiting our natural resources. They want one Cameroon. If they knew they could corrupt Dr. Sako would have been sitting there. They would have made sure that they work with him. But because he's incorruptible, that is why he's not sitting there. The reason why those people are there is because long before we knew it, you and I and other Ambazonians, they had already been having talks behind our backs. Akwanga has been talking to La République du Cameroon way back in Ghana for a very long time. Cameroon is the one sponsoring the project. Cameroon is the one paying the hotels. Cameroon is the one feeding them while they are there. How is it possible that you are fighting somebody for something, and then one party sponsors you, pays your hotel? Who is sponsoring this Canadian process? Is it the Canadian government paying for all this? That is why I say Cameroon is speaking to its friends. Cameroon is not speaking to Ambazonians. Because if you go on home front and you speak to the majority of Ambazonians on home fronts, if you speak to the majority of the boys and girls and men and women carrying weapons, defending their communities, right up to this moment, Cameroon they're killing them. They are there defending their community. Go and ask them, who is their leader? Is this interim government? So the door is still open for Canada to call us. We had a conversation with them, and they told us they are organizing they are convening a meeting at the behest of the Prime Minister, and that they are not mediators. If they want us in the process, then they should follow the rules of engagement. They should talk to us and tell us who actually made them mediators in a conflict in which we are the principal. Is it La République to appoint mediators for us? No, both parties must agree. But the people who have actually maybe prompted them to elevate themselves to mediators are not ambassadors. They are not fighting for us. They are there for themselves, and they are friends of La République. So let them keep having their one Cameroon talk. When they are ready to talk about Ambazonia and Cameroon, then we will come in and talk. When the government officials of Cameroon actually sit on that table, we will send representatives, maybe. Let's see what happens. But Canada should be really careful how they do things. They know the rules of engagement. They know international law. You don't impose a mediator on your own people. You know what I mean? If they want to be the mediator, they should have contacted us. We have been the principal from the beginning. Even when they sponsored the Swiss-led process, they knew that this interim government was this principal. And the reason why people like Ayabacho and all these other people who are there now didn't want to join is because they didn't want to join anything that they don't lead. So now they feel they have the power to lead this delegation to Canada. Let them bring the independence. But guess what? We are not going to go there and talk to Cameroon civil society. They are not the ones killing us. The people who are killing us are not on that table. When they get to that table, we will go. That's the position of the president and this government.
All right. All right, Mr. Vice President, this goes further to establish the fact, like you said a couple of times now, that AGOVC are one of La République du Cameroon's proxies. Being fully aware this meeting is not about a true mediation process or independence of a historically sovereign nation, and they still go to represent themselves there. But then my concern is on Canada. I mean, like you said, they know the rules of mediation. They know these things. Canada being very knowledgeable about this. I mean, for them, being involved in what they've called a mediation or what they called it when it really isn't, they probably have something to gain, or are they doing this out of sheer ignorance? Because, I mean, Canada should know better. They should be more knowledgeable on the rules of mediation and all. I mean, why do they still hold this kind of meeting with Cameroon?
Well, they are helping their old friend, like the president said in his audio. Canada is trying to help La République du Cameroon keep Ambazonia within its grasp. That is what is it. Okay, let me just say this. The default position of the international community, as for even the United States, is that Cameroon remain one. Why do I say that? The United States has not shifted its positions about Cameroon. That's what I'm saying. So we have had resolutions coming from the House of Representatives and from Congress in general. But resolutions are not the laws of the land. They are not. But the United States official position is one Cameroon, just like Canada. But what we are saying is that the United States, Canada, and the other countries in the world should understand that Cameroon pulled out from a process that was internationally recognized, and then brought in an extension of the national dialogue that they held about 2 years ago to Canada. And the fact of the matter is, the people that they are talking to have no bearing on the people on the ground. And in a few weeks, maybe a few months from now, they're going to know that. Why? Because if they sit there and they declare ceasefire, and the people who are actually controlling the ground do not believe in their ceasefire, you think the boys are just going to drop their guns? If our fighters buy what they are selling in Canada today, La République will kill all of them. Because while they are there pretending to talk to fake Ambazonians, La République du Cameroon is militarizing every corner of Ambazonia. Does that look like a country of good faith? If La République du Cameroon was really serious about negotiating the end of this conflict, they would have done it right. The fact is, they ran away from the Swiss process because they knew we were going to go there as a government and as a country. They don't want to see our flag. They don't want to see us call ourselves Amazonian. I bet you, when they sit in any of those meetings in Canada, I don't think La Republic will even agree to talk to them as Southern Cameroonians, because La Republic doesn't recognize that we are a separate country. So, but those are the kind of things that the mediator is supposed to know. A mediator is supposed to be impartial. Canada it is very disappointing that Canada has done this, to promote themselves to a mediator without actually following the rules of mediation. You have to appear to both parties, especially the principal, as being neutral. Canada is not neutral. Canada is helping La Republique maintain us within Cameroon. That is what they are doing. And we are very disappointed about that. But you know what? We will never speak on the process. Let them have their monologue. When Cameroon is ready, we are going to be ready. Thank you, ladies.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President.
All right, thank you so much. And we once again appreciate your patience. You've been with us from the start of this news up until now, and you were very patient, even when we had some technical hitches. But Mr. Vice President, before we let you go, are there words that you want to give as your parting notes? I'm sure that we might not see in the next, maybe next few weeks, but just in case we do or we do not, we just want to have some parting words from you, sir.
Yes, we've been seeing, I know we had some difficulties, so it took longer than I expected. I actually have to go into a meeting, but let me just give some closing remarks. I just want every Ambazonian, every Southern Cameroonian to know that there is nothing wrong with people sitting down and talking. But what are they talking about? Friends have gone to Canada, friends of La Republique have gone to Canada to discuss some agenda, maybe one Cameroon, we don't know. We are not part of it. Our position is that we did not take part in choosing a mediator. That's the second point. The third point I want to make clear is that this interim government will go onto any table when the people who have been an impediment to our struggle to be free are sitting on that table, the people who are killing us. If La Republique stood up today and said, you know what, our government officials are coming, then we will decide who negotiates for us. Now, these are just people talking. I just want people to be calm and keep doing what they are doing. I want our boys on the ground to know that everything La Republique is doing is a trick, because I have the information. While they are in Canada, they are seriously militarizing our country. And I want Canada to know that this interim government will not sit and chat with Cameroon's civil society. When the time comes, after they talk to their friends and they get serious and they want to talk to the government of Ambazonia, I'm sure the president would know the people to send there to talk to them. We will also send government officials from this government to talk to them. Other than that, let's keep the heat up. Let our restoration forces never lay down their guard. Let them never think Cameroon is a country of good faith, because whenever you turn your eye, they will shoot you from behind, because that's what they are trying to do. They are trying to deceive us like they did in Fumban. We will not fall for that. Let them talk to their friends, and when the time comes, we'll see what happens. So, ladies, thank you very much for having me. I wish I could be here a little longer, but I just came here to articulate these points to the Ambazonian people, and to soothe their fears. Nobody should be worried about the interim government not being there, because whatever they are calling the interim government there is led by somebody sitting in jail. That is a friend of La Republique. This is somebody who has been taken from that jail so many times to go to the bishop's house in Yaoundé. He has been fraternizing with our enemy. He is in jail. He doesn't control anybody on the ground. Why would you be negotiating with him? If he's negotiating his own personal freedom from that jail, I'm fine with that. No one deserves to be in prison. But please, His personal freedom or the freedom of our brothers in jail who were kidnapped from Nigeria is not bigger than the freedom of the entire Ambazonia. Please, let's not be selfish. Let's get serious. I'm advising those people who went to Canada to remember that we have lost over 50,000 people. To remember that there are a lot of our refugees in Nigeria and Ghana or scattered all over the world suffering because of that regime. So when you go there and you sip coffee given to you by Cameroon and Canada, remember those people who died. When you go there and you receive whatever goodies you are receiving from them, think of the thousands of our people in the bushes lamenting and suffering, defending themselves, their houses being burned. That is what we are going to negotiate we are going to negotiate our separation, not our union with La Republic. Because these people who are there, I will repeat myself over and over, these people are not for the Southern Cameroons. They are friends of La Republic. They are trying to give a semblance of negotiating our freedom, but we know better. They are not, because from their activities, we know who they represent. Ayabacho, all of them, AGF, these are people who have actually connived to kill our fighters. We saw it happen in Guzan. Are these the people who are going to go talk about Ambazonia? If you can pick up your weapon and you bury genuine Ambazonian Restoration Forces alive, if you can shoot genuine Ambazonian Restoration Forces, why would you fight for their freedom? Where is Akwanga fighting? Where is Akwanga fighting? Where is General Ake? He's sitting in one county in Ambazonia. Are these people representative of the Ambazonian people? No, they are not. So please, let's just keep doing the hard work and let them fumble over there, and then we'll see what happens. The end result will always be good for everyone or bad for everyone. But the fact of the matter is, we are not going to endorse a process that has failed before it even started. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful day.
All right, Mr. Vice President. Before you go, you know, do you still have probably a minute to spare, please? Do you still have a minute to spare?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
All right. Now you made mention of Akwanga, Yabacho, and Taylor. You know, now they talked about representing the act, and it looked quite confusing, especially in the communique by Dr. Mungwa. I don't know if you would want to clear out that confusion, because you know they talked about the communique about the Canadian talks, and it was signed by Yerima, Choayaba, Akwanga, and Taylor, and you know they were representing the act. And we all know what the act is, the team act. Now it's quite confusing. Do you think that could be intentional?
Let me go back memory lane and explain this act business so that every Ambazonian should know it's a sham. Okay. When the Swiss government 3 years ago contacted Dr. Sako and talked about Cameroon being willing to negotiate, Dr. Sako decided not to go alone. Dr. Sako called all the leaders of this revolution, all the leaders of the various groups, and we met in Washington. I was present. When we got there, John Bakoro was there, Akwanga was there, Boo Herbert was there, Ayabacho did not go. From that meet, from when they created something called the LCLC or something, but it collapsed because Fontaine Liba and Akwanga and all those other people, they wanted to use that particular collaborative platform to circumvent the authority of the interim government, because that has always been their plan. So it collapsed. The interim government withdrew from that nonsense. Excuse my language. And now we decided to form ACT, and all the leaders came in, except for Ayabacho and John Bakoro, who I don't even know who he represents. Okay. Ayabacho refused to join ACT. When La République permeated our revolution and bribed a lot of enablers to destroy our interim government, Marianta left, created a government, Christianu now has a government. What did Ayabacho do? Ayabacho went to ACT because we are not there. So we are the one who birthed ACT. It was our idea. But now they have usurped it as though it is an organization. It was just a collaborative platform. So it's like it's really shameful how they do things. That's why I say I just put everything together and said these people who are there are not representative of the Amazonian people. They are not. That's what. So if you see act there, know that the interim government is not part of that act. Because when they put interim government, which interim government? Is it the one, the Sisiku interim government? Or is it the Marianta interim government? Or is it the Chris Adon interim government? If they are actually the interim government, let them deliver Amazonia. We will also be beneficiaries of that delivery, like I've said. But you know what? Anything short of our independence coming from Canada is dead on arrival. That's what I'm saying. So ACT or all these people, they are all charlatans. So let's not even worry about it too much. Let's concentrate on preserving the life of our people. Let our boys keep defending the territory and see how it goes. When La République and Canada realize that this interim government is still the principal in this revolution, then they will come to us. If they don't want to, let them solve it with their friends. And if the Amazonian people are as strong as I know they are, they will never push down one Cameroon down their throats. It will never happen. The Amazonian people on home from will never, because I talk to them every day. They are very worried, but I want to assure them that their government is with them. Their government stands for their total independence and nothing more. And the day that we are going to sit on the table with the Cameroonian government, that's exactly what we are going to be negotiating. Not one Cameroon, not peace in Cameroon, not peace or whatever. It's separation. We want them out of our country. That's our position. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Lily?
All right, Mr. VP. Yes, you have indeed.
Yeah,
Speaking
you
of the
can see
ACT,
I'm
the
really fired. You
Amazonian
can see I'm really fired
Coalition
up.
team.
What again?
Okay, this is just in regards to the last question you answered. We understand that the ACT team Ambazonia is President Sako's brainchild. Where does ACT go from here? Is this still part of? Is the interim government still part of ACT? It being President Sako's brainchild.
No, we're not. We have dissolved ACT. This is how it works in this country, in our revolution. Whenever the president builds something, somebody comes and will try to steal it. We have a national treasury. They go in there and steal money. If we create ACT, they come in and take it. Everything that we touch, they want to take. What is it about this interim government? Why is everybody why are they fighting so hard to destroy this interim government? Why? It is because we are the principal. And if Cameroon and Canada don't want to pretend that they don't know that, they are lying, because they know, and that is why they are avoiding us. The reason why they are avoiding us is because they know we are the principal. They are trying to go behind our backs. They are trying to deal with people of no substance, people who have no representation. People, okay, just look at it for 1 second. How many? If you look at somebody like Akwanga, what is his following? What? RK, BSCFR, or whatever, British Southern Cameroon Restoration Forces, whatever. What is his following? He has 5 soldiers in Boyo, in one county. Why is he there? He's talking for who? A negotiated settlement during a war is not something that we take lightly. This is something that, like in South Africa, imagine Buthelezi was negotiating with the white minority government, and Mandela and the ANC was pushed aside. But it would have never worked. You know why? Because Buthelezi didn't have the pulse of the people. Buthelezi and Inkatha they were not the principal. The reason why Mandela and the ANC led the negotiating process is because they were the principal. Because if Buthelezi and the Communist Party and all those little parties in South Africa were to go to that table and to talk to the white minority government without the principal, what would have happened is that they would have gone there and agreed on something that could not have been implemented because the majority is not there. It is very simple. So Canada should know that. Cameroon should know that. Whatever comes out from here is not going to work. Why? Because the principals are not there. Cameroon is the principal on the other side. This interim government is the principal on the other side. They are both not on the table. So who are these people who are there? Cameroon civil society and Ambazonian civil society. Let them keep talking. When Cameroon gets serious, we will talk. I think that's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. VP. There won't
Yes.
be
All right.
asking
Thank you.
anymore.
You've already given us your last words. We did not know if you want to go back on that, but we really appreciate your presence tonight. Even after we thought we were done, you brought up some more fire from us, and we really appreciate. Like we would always say, whenever we have the vice president, it's time for everyone to come together, learn, study, or learn and relearn. All right, and this is what we're drawing the curtains for today's Undaunted. It's been a fulfilled day, a day of new stuffs, and we hope that tomorrow will be a greater time. Do well to join us on Undaunted tomorrow for news, fresh briefings. All right, here we'll come your way tomorrow. Good night. I am Onyi Okbala.
And I am Star Smart. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.